All right, so yeah, this is me. Uh, I live in Charlottesville, Virginia. If anyone's ever ventured down into the Shenandoah National Park or the Blue Ridge Mountains down in Virginia, we're pretty close to that area, about a half hour from the mountains, about an hour from Richmond. And so its claim to fame here in Charlottesville is this is where Thomas Jefferson lived. So he has there's a place called Monticello. People come and visit. It's a cool area. We also have a university here called UVA, University of Virginia, which Jefferson helped start. And so some pretty neat old buildings in this area. I have some history. But anyways, so this is this is just an image I took real quick. I was digging through some photos last night trying to find some evidence that I actually went to college at Edinburgh a long time ago, and I don't have very much left. But I went to Edinburgh, graduated in 2008 with a degree in environmental studies. And while I was there, I was very confused about what I was supposed to be doing with my life. And I was interested in the environment, and I was interested in science, and so environmental studies made a lot of sense for me. But I was also I felt the need to I needed some kind of creative outlet. And so I minored in photography. And back then, it wasn't that long ago, but they actually still had dark rooms and they had traditional photography classes. And so you could use big cameras and you could develop film in a dark room. And so this is just some images. And for me, it was really important, I think, when I was in school to have a creative outlet. It was great to go to class or whatever and learn from textbooks, but I needed to kind of physically make something. And that was really, it helped me get through school to have a creative outlet, which I'm finding still today is something that's really important for me. Let's see here. So I'm going to try, this is one slide in 8 years of my life. So after school, didn't know what to do. I signed up for a volunteer organization and I went up to New Hampshire and I built trails for about a year. We taught environmental education in classrooms, and then we mostly did trail work, which is a whole lot of fun. It was my introduction to design and construction in a lot of ways. After I was done doing that, I was unemployed and I moved back to Pennsylvania, and a good friend of mine was a carpenter and I worked for him for about a year and he taught me his trade. And I really enjoyed construction. I enjoyed making things. I enjoyed the end of the day seeing the progress of the thing that you made. That felt good. But still kind of lost and didn't really know what to do beyond that. My wife got into grad school, and so we moved out to Idaho, which when most people think of Idaho, they probably think of potatoes, which that's true. There's southern Idaho. There's a lot of farms, and they grow lots of taters. But in northern Idaho is some of the most beautiful, untouched land I've ever seen. There's tons of wilderness, and it's vast. And me and my wife both worked at this outdoor science school, which taught outdoor education for like middle school students. And I was in charge of the grounds, and so I was constantly being asked to build things for people or come up with a design to build something for someone. And I didn't feel like I really had that knowledge set to be able to do that. I was just kind of guessing a lot of times. And this I built. This was a storage shed for wood and for storage items. And this is one of the first things I kind of fully designed and built myself. We felled the trees. We milled up the lumber. We dried it out for a year and then built this. And it felt really great, and I really enjoyed the process. And during that time, I really started to think about architecture as a career because I was working with landscape architects and I was working with some other architects on site, and I saw what they were doing and it was interesting to me. It looked like an interesting career. But well, this is a photograph of an owl, which I took, and I still had that kind of, I was longing for that kind of creative output too, like beyond construction. I wanted to be able to to make something, or to make art, I guess, in a way. Uh, so we lived there for a couple years, and then we decided to quit our jobs and sell everything we owned, and we moved to Hawaii. Why? Because we were in our late 20s, and why not? We My wife wanted to surf, and I was looking for a change, and so we moved to Oahu in Honolulu, which I would not recommend. It's very hard to find a house and a job there, but it's a fun place to live. But I got to work for a nonprofit there called Reuse Hawaii, and what we would do is we would literally disassemble buildings, mostly houses, but we did some bigger buildings. And so from the top down, we would take houses apart piece by piece, and we could salvage typically up to like almost 90% of a house, keep it out of landfills. And in Hawaii, it was important because they had it's very expensive to buy building material there. You would pay 3 times as amount for a 2x4 in Hawaii as you would in Pennsylvania. Very, very expensive. And so a lot of people would come to our warehouse and they would buy used lumber, or toilets or sinks or counters or whatever it was. And you could save a lot of money that way. And it was a good experience for me. I got to run a small crew, so typically 4 to 8 people, and it was a great experience. But again, I was working alongside architects, and I was always interested kind of in what they were doing. And so once my wife got pregnant with our first daughter, I decided it was like a now or never moment if I was going to go back to school. And so we left Hawaii and we moved to Virginia. I got into a school called Virginia Tech, which is South Central Virginia, and and architecture school and getting a license is a bit convoluted. I'm not going to dwell on this slide too long, but I wanted you all to kind of understand, excuse me, the different paths to get to a degree and to get to licensure. So you can, the smartest and best thing to do would be a 5-year undergraduate degree. You can go straight into working, and after you get about, in Virginia, you got to get 3,000 hours of work under your belt, which is like 2 years of work. And you have to take 6 tests, which are incredibly hard. And then you can be considered a registered architect. The other path is if you go to a 4-year undergraduate school, you go get your master's degree on top of that. And then the same thing, you got to get the hours and the tests. And then the path I chose, which is the longest of the paths, is the 4-year undergraduate degree. It's non-architecture related. Then you go back for a 3.5-year master's degree, and then you do the hours, you take the tests. So I'm at the point now, I'm actually not licensed yet, but I've got most of my hours completed, and this next year I'll probably start studying to take the tests. So I wanted to share some images from, this is from work that I did when I was in school, which is architecture school is oftentimes very conceptual, and you would look at this and you'd say, what does that have to do with a building? Nothing and everything. It's architecture school is a place where you can kind of explore making different things, drawings, materials, and it doesn't always have to be a building, but you can still have conversations about buildings. I personally always loved making small little study models and moving back and forth between models and drawings to kind of figure out the important parts of a design. So these are just some images and drawings. The school I went to focused on hand drawing a lot. That's pretty much done. Like no schools do that anymore. We actually did draft by hand, but that, because of COVID, that's probably not going to happen ever again. These are just some. This is a toy competition I entered. Still a little bitter I didn't win this, but my children still play with this toy, so they like it. That's all that matters, I guess. And then craft has always been something that's been really important for me, coming from the background I come from. I think that I love, touching material, and I love working with materials. I still do. So that's something that's really important to a lot of architects. Even when we're coming up with big concepts, we're always also thinking about materiality and thinking about details that we'd like to see happen in a building. So after school, I moved to Charlottesville. This is the office I work in. Uh, we're called VMDO. It's very common in architecture profession to have some kind of letters that represent someone's last name. So I don't know. I don't even know what VMDO stands for, to be honest. But we're about 70 people in this building. Um, and this is a cross section of the building. And so just a little taste of what's going on inside. We have 3 studios. We have the studio here is K12 Studio. It just focuses on designing educational buildings for K12. We have 3 of we've currently have 3 net zero schools, elementary and high schools, which net zero means that you're only using the energy that you can produce on a building. So through geothermal or through solar panels or other means, that's the energy that the building consumes. And we have 3 built currently and 2 more being built, and that's, I think, the most in the nation. So our firm is kind of leading in that way. We have a athletics and community studio that focuses on more athletic buildings, which are fun, and community centers, which are growing in popularity. And then we have a higher education studio that just does college and university work, which there's quite a lot of. And then it's just a fun building. This building's pretty old. It's like 150 or 200 years old. And so there's some neat places. We have a kitchen way up in the attic and a kitchen down in the bathroom, and a never-ending supply of coffee, and a fun place to work. Unfortunately, I'm not there. I'm in my living room, but that's the way it goes right now, I guess. Just a little taste of some projects I've gotten to work on in the last 2 years that I've been there. This is a softball stadium that got built in town at UVA. It got completed in February. It was a pretty fun project, actually, because most of the building is underneath the ground. All of the storage and programming and locker rooms and bathrooms are all kind of buried. I lost my video there. Let's see. That's okay. You guys can still hear me, right? I'll keep going. Okay. Second, well, these 3 images on the right, this is a study we did. Well, actually not a study. This is an actual project we did for George Washington University, and they have all of these dormitories, and they were built in different times. And so they asked us to come up with an idea for their lobbies to make all of their lobbies have a unique feel. And so when you go in one dorm or the other dorm, you know that they're somehow connected. So this is more of just an interior project, like wallpaper, carpet, flooring, lighting, but to give 10 different buildings a similar flavor. And then the project I've been mostly involved with is this one on the bottom here. This is a performing arts center that is an addition to an auditorium that was built in the 50s, which is a pretty crappy and depressing building. And so what we are designing and currently is under construction is a 20,000 square foot addition that has a performing arts center, rehearsal room, and a shop for making scenery, and then all other kind of teaching spaces. So, and then this is from that same project. This is in the existing auditorium. So we proposed, this is a rendering on the left, we proposed this wood paneling as a new entryway and new flooring to their old auditorium. And then just last week we went out and we got to see them putting up some of the cherry wood paneling, which is looking pretty good. So it was exciting to see. Kind of a lipstick on a pig kind of scenario, because there's a lot that should have been replaced, but still it's much better than what was currently there, and they were working with a really limited budget. That's always a struggle. And then one last thing, I just won't dwell on this too long. I'm also currently working on this project with Virginia Tech, and this is actually a pro bono project. So that means we don't get paid, or we get paid very, very little for our services. So it's more of a volunteer thing, but we're helping the students are going to have designed and are going to be building these pieces of furniture, and they're going to be installing them into a new building on campus. And so there's a lounge, a shop, and an apartment. And so they're able to kind of design the things in their class and then actually build them and install them. It's a project that we're currently doing. So this is the last slide, and then I want to hop over to the model. I just kind of wanted to generally touch on the 3 phases of a project and the way that we work. And so we start off with concept design, and that basically is it's the big idea that we present to a client. Sorry, one second. My daughter's doing school behind me. It's a little loud. In concept design, this is the big idea, and this is what we show the client, and you say like, okay, well, we have $12 million. What can you give us? And we would say, this is the building that you can get. And we move on from concept design into design development, and we move from a SketchUp model to a model that's in a program called Revit. And you literally in Revit, you can build every piece of the building, and you can calculate everything that's inside of the building. And so we work in it in an architectural model, and then we have structural and mechanical engineers that also work in our model. And so we can see where their HVAC duct is running and where their beams are. We can see everything. And so it's a way that we collaborate to work. And then the last phase is called construction documents. And those are the actual drawings that we make once the budget is set and we know what's in the project. We make these drawings, and those are the drawings that they use to build the building. So hop out of here. Okay, so I just wanted to go through those 3 models. Can you all see the SketchUp model okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this is an old SketchUp model that we used to design this edition that I was talking about. And so we use SketchUp because it's really easy. I'm sure some of you have used it. It's really easy to push and pull and to do things really quickly. And we like to use it in our office because you can come up with ideas and options pretty quickly to share with everyone. And then we'll also use it to make renderings from. So the kind of polished images that you see, you can do that from SketchUp. You can export these and take them into Photoshop or into other rendering programs, and you can generate some surprisingly realistic and nice images. Moving on from SketchUp, this is what a Revit model looks like. So it kind of looks similar, but it is much, much more, I'd say it's heavier. The building itself is, you can pretty much click on any item, like so say this mullion right here, and I could tell you that, so you see that little dialog box pops up. It says it's a Conair 1600 7.5-inch curtain mullion. So those are actual dimensions. It's an actual product. And so this is how we build models. And so let me show you a floor plan. So this is looking at an overall floor plan, which has a lot of information on it. And if I were to kind of zoom in on that lobby area that we were just looking at, I'll show you how I draw a wall. So let's say I draw a wall right through the middle of the lobby and out into the area there. Okay, so I've drawn that wall. Oh boy. Sorry, one second. And then I can give that wall a thickness. I can give it a height. I can angle it. I can do all kinds of things to it. But also, if I go back to a 3D view, you can see that wall. So in every view that we have set up and every sheet that we already have set up, you can see this thing will appear. And so it's a pretty, it's a pretty useful way to work. And so, and I guess just a little further, all of these things that are set here. Like this is a wall section. That's what this line indicates. So I go into a wall section. You can see this is a cut through that entire curtain wall and the roof and the foundation, the whole thing. And then where we say, okay, well, we'd like to see more detail at this area because there's a lot going on. We have another view where we lay out notes and call out certain things for the contractor to be able to understand and to price. So that's kind of the general overview of how Revit works. Then I want to show you one more thing. Let's see if this works. Okay. So this one's always a little trickier to see if I can get this to work for you guys. So we have this other program called Inkscape, but it is looking pretty frozen right now. It might not work. Let me try that one more time, and we can continue to talk. So we have this plugin called Inkscape, and it's a really it's a very helpful thing because we can basically, it's like a video game. So it's a 3D model that you can walk around. You can walk up and down stairs. You can drive around. If you're trying to figure out something that you can't really see in a view, you can hop in there and look at it. So this might take a minute to load, but it may not load at all. We'll give that a second just to see. Okay, sounds good. I'm going to stop sharing that, and if that loads, I'll share it again, okay? See if I get my video going. So not to put you all on the spot, but is there any questions, or is there anything that you saw that you're interested in that you want to know a little more about? About you? Yeah.
Is SketchUp like more? Is that like kind of an industry standard program that a lot of people are using now?
No. Well, it depends on the size of the firm. And so for small firms, yes, like a lot of small firms will be using SketchUp because it's cheap and it's easy to use, and you can teach someone how to use it really quickly.
Yeah.
But for big firms, actually, no. A lot of big firms don't use it anymore. We're kind of a medium-sized firm, and so I think at some point we'll probably stop using it. But it just depends on the designers too. Like some people just like using SketchUp because I think it's, it gets the idea across pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what we used to use for designing like skate parks when we go from like different towns and stuff, and that's how I kind of designed like the layout for my barn for the little skate park that I have up there too.
Yeah, I mean it's a great tool for that. It's just really user friendly, and I use it when I'm designing stuff at home too, like because there's plugins for SketchUp too where you can plot things like a plan or a section or an elevation, or you can draw dimensions. So it's great for that.
How much do you guys get into using Adobe Photoshop?
So we use Photoshop just for renderings. So so some of those images I showed you that would render it out, we would use Photoshop for those.
Right.
But that, and I would say like any kind of like presentation material, like I showed you that one image of the building and the section of the building, that's something that was, heavily Photoshopped. So we have a marketing department, and the marketing department does a lot of that stuff. Like if I needed a graphic, we got some whizzes in there that know how to work that software really well. So Sorry, 1 second. I'm close to getting this to work. I do want to show you guys this because I think it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna try to start it one more time.
Jimmy, do you need all those programs open on your computer? Maybe.
I have so many programs open right now.
I saw like 10 programs. But that's probably that's how it works.
Yeah, it's a pretty fast computer,
Yeah.
but this one program in particular it's pretty heavy, and so
You said that's like more of like a rendering program, correct?
yeah, we use it for rendering, and the other thing that's really nice is you can actually use it. So like if we're working with a client, we can show them um, we can show them the building. We can literally walk through the building with them.
Yeah.
You can walk up and down stairs, and so they get a feeling of what it's like, kind of, to be inside of it. And that, one thing they're actually starting to use, you guys know QR codes are the codes you can
Yeah. Yeah.
scan with your phone.
Yep.
So you can take Inkscape and you could take a panorama in Inkscape in this program, which you'll understand once we're inside of it.
Yeah.
And then on the job site, they'll have QR codes, and so contractor can go into a room which doesn't have anything on the walls, doesn't have any furniture. They can scan a QR code and they can see what the finished product is supposed to look like, right? And so that's a little bit of, it's like virtual reality, which is an interesting thing, and people are getting more and more into that. But
Well, it just really helps sell your plan or sell your idea, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like if you want someone, not everyone can read drawings. Reading drawings it's a skill, to be able to look at a plan and know what you're looking at. And so here we go. All right. So this is Inkscape. So let me zoom in here.
What?
Yeah. So this is our building, and so we, including landscape and people.
You're not gonna cut that grass?
It's getting a little long.
Yeah, it's a little long.
We can control that. But yeah, I mean, we also use this, I would say, even more as a design tool for us, because then we can get inside and we can really have a look around, and we can start to understand proportion, or if, if the material's not right. And we get a sense of what the actual space might look like. So this is that lobby I showed you guys that's being built right now. And so what we're doing is we're connecting these two lobbies, the old lobby and the new lobby are connected through this building. So, so yeah, I mean, it's a super powerful program, and it's kind of fun, especially if I'm, a little bored in my living room. You can hop in here and have some fun with Inkscape. But a great design tool, and I could take this image, like if I find an image that I really like, I could export it as a JPEG, and I could take it into Photoshop, and I could add some effects and send it off to the client. So pretty useful.
Wow.
Yeah. So this
That
is
looks like an incredible program.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think it's almost free. I think they actually make this for SketchUp as well.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know this, but Google SketchUp is a free program that you guys can download for your computers. And you can even do stuff with Google SketchUp on your iPads as well. It's really a pretty powerful program, but I think what makes it more powerful are some of the updates or plugins that you can get for it. Right? Am I correct, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's what this is. Inkscape is a plugin.
And then you can upgrade to the Pro, which is even, it has much more capabilities and stuff with it.
So yeah, I'll just add one more thing here too. Like all this stuff you're seeing on top of this roof is all mechanical equipment.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, we don't model any of it. Actually, the way it works with cloud-based models, our whole Revit model is in a cloud. And so our engineers, like our mechanical engineer, will get inside of our model and make this stuff, right? And so then we can get back in there and we see if there's any conflicts, or if there's, their beam is running into our something, or, mechanical duct is running into a beam, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty useful to be able to all work together, you collaborate, I guess, in the cloud. So
really neat stuff, Jimmy.
yeah, that's Inkscape.
We only have a few more minutes left, and we're gonna get the food off the Zoom.
Sure.
So, questions, guys? Do you guys have any questions about any of these programs? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, Mr. Jimmy,
Mm-hmm.
I was just wondering, how did you find the firm you're in? Was that something that like your college was like, hey, here's a firm that we think that would be good for you, or did you kind of just find it on your own?
Hi, can you repeat that question for me?
Yeah, sorry.
Did you find the firm that you're working for, or is that something that you kind of found on your own? Like, did the university help hook you up with your job opportunity?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So the school that I went to actually does a job fair every February. And the job fair, the year that I was looking for a job, there was 100 firms that came to our school. And I had researched a bunch of the firms, and I was ready to go talk to them. And I really hit it off with these guys in particular. We were just kind of, it's really just about meeting people and see if you have a connection. And so for us, we had a connection and it worked out. But that's a good question. I think every school kind of handles that different. But one thing, our firm spends a lot of money doing outreach. We like coming into schools just to talk to people about the possibility of architecture as a career, and then also we go to a lot of colleges and we try to recruit good talent. And so the key is to go to a school that has a good architecture program. And on that note, I did want to mention one other thing to you. The great thing about this class that you're taking right now is that you have projects and you're generating work, and you should try to keep track of that stuff. If you have any kind of designs, later on down the road in 5 years or something, or in 1 year, you might say, I want to go to school for architecture, or I want to go to school for design. And a lot of times the way to get into school is you need to have a portfolio and you need to have work to be able to show. And I didn't have architecture school in high school. And so my portfolio was pretty weird, but it's great that you have that. So keep track of those assignments.
Mr. Stuyvesant?
Yes.
I have a question. Can I ask real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You said you should look for like a school with a good architecture program. Would you say there's any like certain key things you should look for, like that you would suggest looking for if you were looking for a program?
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't get into it in the slide because I didn't want to go too into the details, but there are accredited schools. And so the difference between going to an accredited school and an unaccredited school is that if I go to a 4-year program and it's accredited, that means or a 5-year program and it's accredited, I can go right into the workforce. If you go to a school that doesn't have accreditation, then you might have to go to grad school for a long time. And so the key is to go to a school that has this kind of credential. And what that means is there's an architecture review board, and they come into the university and they look at the program and they say, like, this is legit. Like, you guys are teaching, you have a really good program and you're teaching it the right way. And so that is a key thing. Like the school I went to, when I was looking at schools, I only looked for schools that had that accreditation. And so I think like State College actually has a pretty decent architecture program. And I got into that school, and they are accredited. And I believe that the Tyler School of Architecture, which is in Philadelphia, at forgetting the university's name down there, but they have also a good accredited program.
Probably our last minute right now. I've been kind of watching the clock since that limit came up.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jimmy?
You said the Tyler School of Architecture?
Tyler School of Architecture, right?
What's that?
Did you mention the Tyler School of Architecture?
Tyler, yeah, Tyler. That's right. Yeah, that's down in Philly at Temple. So Tyler, I think, is the art school down there, the art branch of Temple University.
Jimmy, thank you for your time here today.
Yeah.